everyone, welcome to your reading. I would like to first say a huge thank you to the subscriber who suggested this topic. Alright, I am going to try to make sure that I address all possibilities here because some of you are asking about a friend, some of you are asking about a crush, some of you are asking about maybe an ex-romantic partner, maybe some of you are talking about a family member you haven't been in contact with. So I'm going to address all possibilities here. And so just be discerning about which message applies to your situation and which one doesn't. I will also say sometimes in readings like this, the energies get flipped. They get a little bit muddled. So if I say something where you're like, well, that doesn't apply to me, but it does apply to the person that I'm asking about, just flip everything I'm saying, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get into your messages now. We have the Page of Cups, we have the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Wands, we have the Two of Cups, and we also have the Hierophant card here as well. I feel like this first card here is so significant. The way the cup of milk is being poured into the teacup or the coffee cup here, whatever it is, with the little boy's face, on the front of the cup, it looks like we're pouring this into your mind. And so it really feels like this person is weighing very heavily on your mind, or they're always kind of lingering in your subconscious. I do feel like there's a lot of unresolved feelings. There's this sort of, this vibe of like, I never got closure. I think for a lot of you, especially with you having the double aces here, the Ace of Swords and the Ace of Wands, there's this feeling of like, I wish I had said something different. I wish I had done something differently. Maybe if I had done X, Y, and Z, things could have turned out with a different outcome. Maybe I would still be in contact with this person, because it does feel like either communication is really strained between you two, or you don't speak at all anymore. There's just this feeling of what if, what if, what if. And for a lot of you, I think it's less about you wanting a fresh start with this person, although for some of you, maybe you do want another chance at it. Whether it's, a friendship, a family member, a love situation, you want another chance at it. For others of you, it's more of this feeling of like regret and this what if. Because I think for a lot of you, you sort of doubt whether this connection could have ever have been what you wanted it to be. I think there's a lot of doubt there. I think that even if you got a fresh start, as badly as a part of you may want that, another part of you would still have a lot of reservations about it. A big part of you would still doubt whether the outcome would be any different. And I think it's because with the Page of Cups and the Two of Cups here, and the Hierophant, there's just this sort of energy of like, I don't know if they're ever going to change. I don't know if this is ever going to be what I want it to be, what I need it to be. I don't know if we can ever have that Two of Cups, that balanced, healthy, kind of connection, because it takes two to tango. It takes two to give. And I just don't know. But I do feel like it's weighing on your mind. It's weighing on you. And I think a lot of it has to do with the what ifs. And I do think a part of you is like, maybe if I had handled it differently, or maybe if I had said something different, the outcome could have been different. Maybe it wouldn't have been the best, because I think from your perspective, they could have done things differently too. And I think that is where the divide feels so great. It doesn't feel like one person is totally at fault here. And maybe it's a situation where you sort of know you have to be the bigger person. You know that because of where they're at and their like maybe emotional maturity, or maybe they're going through a hard time in their life. They can't give as much as you can give. So you know, even if you had a fresh start with this person, you would still have to be the bigger person in a lot of regards and kind of handle the situation delicately. And so that's why I said, like, yeah, there's this energy of like these repeating aces, which would make us think you want a fresh start with this person. But I still think there's a part of you that feels like that's fantasy because of where this person is at in their life. Or maybe because of where you're at. Like I said, maybe the energy is flipped. But with the Hierophant, it's sort of also this energy of like, this person is stubborn. Maybe it's their way or the highway. Maybe they're condescending. Maybe they talk down to you. Maybe they're so rigid in a certain mindset or their perspective of the situation, they can't see your side. So you feel like, is closure even possible? Could we even have a healthy sit-down discussion, as badly as I want that? Because for some of you, it's like we just never got to have closure. We just never got to talk it out and reach some kind of resolution so both of us can move forward without each other. So there's that energy too. If this is a crush situation, I think that the reason why they're lingering in your mind is that you wish that you had acted upon it more directly. With the Ace of Swords and the Ace of Wands, I wish I had said something or done something. Because with the Swords, I'm thinking communication. With Wands, I'm thinking action. You wish that you had been more forward. And maybe there's also this energy of like, maybe when we're older, maybe when we've had distance from this, maybe we can reconcile. There's a lot of maybes and a lot of what ifs. And I think that big question mark is why this person lingers in your energy, why they linger in your mind, why they linger in your heart. With the Cat Meme Tarot, with the Cat Meme Tarot, the question that I asked of that deck was, which card would best represent out of the major arcana, because the Cat Meme Tarot is only the major arcana, which card would best represent the person that is on group one's mind? And we got the Sun card. Now, the Sun card is arguably the most positive card in the major arcana. However, there's several messages that are coming through with this. And so just bear with me because there's a lot of meaning in this one card. With the Sun card here, this person may have been, in a lot of ways, a positive influence in your life. I think that there's a lot about this person that you liked, a lot about this person that you loved, a lot about this person that you were enamored with. But think about the Sun. We want to get close to the warmth of the sun, right? But too much of anything is a bad thing. If we stay out too long in the sun, especially if you're lacking melanin, like I am, and you're really pale, you burn, right? The sun, as beautiful and wonderful as it is, can still be unhealthy for us. Maybe this was a situation where you were spending too much time with this person, where you made them too important. Sometimes that happens a lot, I think, especially in friendship and in love. We put too much importance on somebody. And you see how the cat is like stretching out its arms, like, give me the light of the sun so I can grow like this sunflower. You know, maybe you put this person on a pedestal and maybe they were never going to live up to your expectations. I mean, maybe that part of it is on you, is that your expectations of them were too high. And I'm not saying your expectations were too high in a sense of you were asking too much. Maybe you were. But I think for most of you, you were asking too much of that particular person, of what was reasonable for them to give you, because some people, I want to say this carefully because I want to make sure you get what I'm saying. And I want to deliver the message clearly. Sometimes what we ask of someone isn't wrong. It's perfectly reasonable. However, if we're being honest with ourselves about what that person is capable of giving, we realize then we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. Some people, you have to accept their limitations, and you sort of have to accept they're doing their best, even if we think their best isn't that great. I have a relationship with a family member in my life that in order to maintain a relationship with them, I have to manage my expectations. I have to accept that they're at a certain level of emotional maturity that limits their ability to have compassion, limits their ability to be honest sometimes about things that have transpired in the past. And, it just kind of comes with the territory because I have an awareness of what happened to them in their childhood and what happened to them in their young adult life that has led to them sort of almost like having like a martyr complex in some ways. And so I give this person grace. And I manage my expectations so I don't break my own heart, so I don't disappoint myself. And so I think that may have been the situation, is that this person, maybe they just lack this emotional maturity. Maybe they tend towards selfishness. Maybe they're really self-absorbed. Or maybe they were just going through a really hard time at this point when you two had this breakdown, that they just couldn't give you what you needed even if they wanted to. They just weren't capable. And I think if you were gonna go back and try to rebuild a connection with this person to avoid breaking your own heart, you would have to accept, okay, I need to lower my expectations. And if you don't want to lower your expectations and standards, then that's fine. Leave this person in the past. But I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, sometimes we do put too much importance on somebody. And maybe there was an element here of codependency. I know that's a rough message to hear. But if you think about the sun being at the center of our solar system, and like just this idea of like being around them felt like sunshine, I do think there's something about this person that gave you warmth, something about this person that you really enjoyed. But it's like if I put too much emphasis on that, then I've made my mood too dependent upon them being there. And I think also with the sun's light is so bright, it can't really see anything beyond itself. And that's why I said maybe this person was self-absorbed. Maybe they couldn't see you. So yes, this person may have this beautiful light and be really warm and generous, and just being around them feels really beautiful. Maybe they're really funny and charming and, just a good time, that warmth. But maybe it's hard for them to see past themselves because that light is so bright. The sun gives warmth and gives life to so many things on our planet, and yet it can't see anything because its light is so bright. So maybe this person was really self-absorbed. Maybe this person was really self-centered, and that's different than being selfish. Because I do think with all this light they're putting off, they do have a generosity. But they think mostly about themselves. Maybe they were a Leo like I am. They just very focused on themselves, which isn't always a negative thing. But I think you needed them to see you. You needed them to be there in a way for you that they just weren't capable of. And with the Sun card too, if this was a crush or a love interest, I could also see, again, sort of like you romanticizing this person and not really seeing the truth of who they were. And then maybe when you did discover that truth, maybe you were disappointed. Or again, maybe you're still romanticizing them in your mind and all of this is just potential. What if, what if, what if? And that's why they linger. Now with this enemy card here, some of you may disagree, but this is the message that is coming forward. I do think for a lot of you, like I said, you're in no contact or communication has really broken down with this person who's on your mind. And for you to view someone as your enemy, for you to view someone as being your adversary, whatever term you want to use, for you to be in such a bad place with them, there has to be a lot of love there. If you just don't like somebody and you've never liked somebody, you wouldn't say they're your enemy. Because they just wouldn't matter that much to you, would they? For you to feel such a level of hurt, for them to loom so large in your mind, they had to have meant a lot to you at one point. There had to be love there for there to be hate. They're two sides of the same coin. And maybe hate is too strong of a word. Maybe you wouldn't go there. And maybe enemy is too strong of a word, but you are at odds with this person. Again, that may not resonate for everyone, but I think for most of you, you're at odds with this person. And it's like, how did it get so bad? I think for a lot of you, there's just this feeling, it's hard to accept. It's hard to accept that things have gotten so bad. It used to be mad love, now it's bad blood. Like, how did it get here? And so you may go back over and over again, the events that have transpired and ask yourself, where did it go wrong? And kind of just reliving it. And I think every time you do that, it opens the wound back up. It opens the wound back up. And it's interfering with you healing and moving on. And maybe you do need that closure. Maybe you do need to have that final conversation, the nail in the coffin. Maybe for others of you, you just need to let it go. And maybe for a few of you, you can have your fresh start and you can reconcile. It's going to depend on you. Your cards aren't saying one way or the other. But I think your cards are trying to help you get a better understanding of why they loom so large even still. And I think that if you are going to heal from this, regardless of which path you decide to take here, you need to acknowledge how much this person meant to you. Because I think you see that a lot of times, when people go through a breakup or, people cut off a friend or they cut off a family member, they get in their feelings and they focus on every bad thing, every bad quality, every little hurt that ever happened. And they try to play it off like, yeah, my ex is crazy, or, my friend is a backstabber. And hey, I mean, it might be true. Maybe your friend did stab you in the back. But I think if you're being honest with yourself, and I think that's integral to you healing from this, at one point in time, you really had a lot of love for this person and they had a lot of love for you. There were things that you really loved and liked about this person. With them coming through as the Sun card, I know that's the case. I know it. I can see it. It's right there in your cards. Maybe at one point y'all did have the Two of Cups. Maybe things were really great with you all at one point in time. And sometimes people do that. You know, they're not happy with you, and they try to minimize the relationship. I've had that happen to me before. I was someone's best friend for like 15 years. And when things went south, all of a sudden, we weren't really close. It was a long distance friendship. We weren't really close. Yeah, things got rocky there at the end. But you're telling me every phone call, all those hours spent supporting you, supporting each other, didn't really mean much. Okay. People do that. And I don't really get it, you know? I mean, you can decide that moving forward, you don't want someone in your life, but I think you do a disservice to you and the other person when you try to sit there and say they meant nothing to you. That whole time they meant nothing to you. People do that with breakups too, and I've had friends confide in me, you know, all the time. It's like, well, you know, he dumped me, so I hate him, and he's a jerk, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, just last week, they were the love of your life. Come on now. Come on. You're hurting, and that's fine, but come on. You have to acknowledge what this person meant to you. It's part of the healing process, and accepting and admitting that they hurt you, because beneath all of this anger and resentment, whatever the feelings are, there is hurt. And they wouldn't have been able to hurt you as deeply as they did if they never mattered to you. There was once a lot of love here. They mattered to you. And maybe they didn't deserve your love, but that love was there. And now for your final message here, we have comforting Cassie. And I think there's a lot of meaning just in this one card as well. I think for some of you, it brings you a lot of comfort to focus on the bad, because it's almost like when those feelings come up of what could have been, or just missing them, I think that you try to push those feelings away by thinking about and focusing on the hurt, the arguments, the communication breakdown, and you try to tell yourself, this is logically why, point by point, we're not meant to be friends, or we're not meant to be lovers, whatever. I'm not meant to talk to my mom or my sister, my brother, whoever this is. And I think it brings you a sense of comfort, because I think the feelings with this are still raw. I do. And you know, sometimes it takes that. Maybe this isn't a person who needs to be in your life. Maybe this is someone that you should leave in the past. Or maybe you need some time away from this person, you know, before you can reconcile. Maybe you need a couple months, maybe you need a couple years. But I think if it works for you, if it keeps you strong, if you know this isn't a healthy person for you to have in your life, then keep doing that. But I think part of the healing process is also going to be admitting to yourself that the reason why I feel so hurt is because they did matter to me. I did at one point have a lot of love for this person. And if this is a crush, you know, a sense of like unrequited love kind of situation, for some of you it very well could be, I think it brings you a comfort to sit there and sort of daydream about what if. You know, it's a fantasy you can go to. And sometimes we need the fantasy. Maybe the reality with this person wouldn't have been what you wanted it to be. And that's okay. You can still keep the fantasy. There's this episode of The Golden Girls where Dorothy, poor Dorothy, she's my favorite character, but she always had such bad luck in love. And she had this teacher when she was in school, and he wasn't much older than her when she was in high school, and it's still inappropriate, right? But she had a crush on him. And it turns out, you know, her mom didn't like that her teacher was in town and going to be visiting her. She was like, I don't like you talking to Mr. Gordon. I don't like this. And she's like, no, Mom, like, you know, we're just going to catch up. He wants my help with this article. He values my input. He respects me. He sees me as a peer. And it's very clear Dorothy really admired Mr. Gordon, put him on a pedestal. And when she's around him, she's like a schoolgirl again. She's very much infatuated with him. And, you know, her mom keeps warning her, like, you're going to get hurt. And that's exactly what happens. He basically uses Dorothy's rewrite of his article and has it printed as his own work. He doesn't give her any credit. So the feedback that she gave him, he basically used as a whole new article without giving her any credit. And then it's sort of like a light bulb moment where she has to be honest with herself and say, you know what? He kind of did the same thing to me when I was in high school. He would use me to help him grade assignments, or I think one time she even rotated his tires or something crazy. But he used her. And he knew that how infatuated she was with him, and he used that to his advantage. And she says to her mom, I've carried this fantasy of Mr. Gordon for all these years. I think Dorothy's in like her 50s. And she's like, now I don't even have the fantasy anymore. And her mom says, you can still have the fantasy. Even though Mr. Gordon didn't turn out to be the person that you hoped he would be, you can still have the fantasy. And so if this is unrequited love, if this is a crush that you had or a love that didn't work out, you can still have the fantasy. If it brings you a sense of comfort, you can keep the fantasy. Just know if this person is, an unhealthy influence, in reality, you have to let them go. You can keep the fantasy, but in reality, not have them in your life. All right, that concludes your reading. I hope it resonated. I hope it brought you some comfort. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing. Hitting the notification bell lets you know whenever I upload. The easiest way to support the channel is to watch the ads. I know they can probably be a little bit annoying, but you can always mute them and just have them on in the background. So I really appreciate anyone who does that as well. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched the ads already, been a regular viewer, donated on Venmo, tipped with SuperThanks, or just commented or liked a video. It means the world to me and to Miss Gracie, of course. I'm wishing everyone the best as always. Please take care, and I hope to see you in my next reading. welcome to your reading. So like I was telling group 1, I'm going to try to address all possibilities here because some of you may be asking about a family member, a friend, an ex-romantic partner. So I'm going to try to address all possibilities, or a crush even. So if something doesn't resonate, just leave it. You do have to be, I think, more discerning with this reading because it is a general reading and everyone's asking about a different situation, which message applies to you and which doesn't. I will also say a big thank you to the subscriber who suggested this topic. I feel like there's another thing I was meant to tell you, but I can't remember. So let's just go ahead and get into it here. Okay, we have the 9 of Wands to start us off. We have the 2 of Pentacles. We have the Fool card. We have the Sun, the High Priestess, and we also have the 7 of Pentacles here. Okay, a lot going on. I do think that this is a connection where you did put in a lot of effort, and it doesn't feel like there was one thing that happened that caused there to be sort of this breakdown. It seems like with this 9 of Wands and this 7 of Pentacles, this was a buildup over time. And maybe one thing happened where it was like, well, that's the last straw. But it does feel like whatever the discord is here, the distance that is here, that's the reason why they're still on your mind. It was a lot of little things that built up until it just broke. Oh, I remember the thing I was supposed to tell y'all. I'm sorry. Sometimes the energies here get muddled. So if I got the situation backwards, just flip it. So if I'm talking about your person, but it sounds more like you, just flip it. Okay. But I feel like with the 2 of Pentacles, a couple different things here. There was a lot of back and forth. Should I keep this person in my life? Should I not? Should I distance myself? Should I not? Should I set this boundary with them? Should I not? And I think you two just had very different perspectives. The strawberry cake versus the chocolate. Like you just had 2 very different perceptions of the connection. Either your expectations weren't lining up, what your goals weren't lining up. Their version of events wasn't lining up with your version of events. Their truth wasn't matching your truth. You weren't seeing eye to eye. And it felt like such an effort. And I do think this is something that happened over time. With the Fool card, like the bunny jumping into the water and the squirrel kind of just staying there on land, kind of feels like maybe this was a connection where you had a long history with this person, like you knew them for a long time. And I think with the bunny, one person was progressing and evolving and maturing and moving on. And the other person was kind of stuck in their ways. They stayed in their comfort zone. They didn't grow. They didn't challenge themselves. They didn't evolve. They stayed where they were at. And so the bunny person is out here making moves, and the other person is standing still. And I think that's where the disconnect grew. Let's just say, if this is a friendship, maybe you formed this friendship, or even like a romantic partner. Maybe you started dating them when you were 20 years old. But now, let's say 6 years down the line, you grew. If you're the bunny person, you grew. You Lord, I can't even talk. You have grown over that 6-year period. You have matured, evolved, challenged yourself. And maybe that person is still stuck is still directionless, is still playing it safe. That person didn't grow with you. They didn't mature. Maybe in some ways, they still act pretty childish. And so it's like, I don't resonate with you anymore. And you know, sometimes the people we choose to have in our lives when we're younger aren't the same people we would choose to be in our lives or that we would choose to associate with when we're older. Sometimes we maintain friendships or even a romantic partnership because of the history. But sometimes, you know, we're meant to leave people behind. We're meant to go different ways. At some point in time, the path diverges and you can't take them with you. And I think you wanted to. I think you tried. I think you really had a lot of patience with this person, but it's like this leaning tower of like pancakes here. It wasn't sustainable. I think you tried to make a seasonal relationship or a seasonal friendship into like a lifetime partnership or a lifelong friendship, and it just wasn't meant to be. You wanted them to grow with you. I think a lot of you are the bunny person. You wanted them to grow with you and they just didn't. And I think intuitively with the high priestess, you know that. But I think there's a guilt there. Like maybe I could have helped them more. Maybe I could have encouraged them more. If this is a family member, maybe you have just done something so differently with your life that your family member just doesn't understand. You're not following the path that they wanted you to take. They don't respect your choices. Maybe your life philosophy is a lot different than theirs. Your values are a lot different than theirs. And it's just this gulf now between you. There's so many differences here. It feels like such an effort to find common ground with this person now. And with the Sun card, you know, I feel like you're happy, you're living well. I don't feel like you're struggling without this person. But I think the reason why they're on, you know, your mind is a sense of guilt. It's not your job to carry somebody. It's not your job to carry somebody. You can't force someone to grow up. You can't force someone to expand their mind. You can't force someone to be more open-minded. You can't force someone to mature. You can't. If it's any consolation, if you're that bunny person, you really tried. You really, really tried. But you can't do all the work. You had patience. You put in the effort. You did your best. But now I think it's time for you to move forward. You know, Group 1's cards weren't telling them whether they should reconcile or not. With you all, Group 2, it's really not much of a choice. You can't go backwards. You're on such a positive path. You can't go backwards. It's so hard, I think, where that squirrel person is at to find common ground. You know, I think in the future, maybe with time, if that squirrel person decides that they're going to evolve, mature, expand, do some self-development, I think, yeah, sure. But you gotta think, while they're starting that process, you're continuing to grow. So I feel like there's always going to be a gulf. There's always going to be a divide. Maybe they'll catch up, or they'll catch up enough to where you can have a relationship again. But I don't know, I think that you've been leaving them behind for a long time now. Not intentionally, but you were growing up. You were moving on. You were doing your self-development, if you're that bunny person. We have turmoil, we have crush, we have the Chariot, and we have Justice. With the Chariot and Justice, what I think is so unfortunate about this whole dynamic is that the more success you found, the more chances you took, and I think you did take some risks that paid off for you. I think you took some leaps of faith. I think that even like your spiritual side may be something that this other person just doesn't understand. They may have labeled you as reckless or stupid or naive when you were making things happen. And I think the more success you got, the more they resented you for it. And it's unfortunate because they could have chosen to be inspired by you, or to learn from you, or to get advice from you, or to just be happy for you. But there is a sense of resentment. And they may even tell themselves that you don't deserve your success, that you don't deserve your happiness, that you don't deserve to move on and move forward and move up. I do think they're carrying some resentment towards you. Again, if you may need to flip it, but I think for most of you, you're the bunny. And I think for some of them, with the way this Justice card is depicted, some of them may really, I hate to say it, but some of them may be wishing ill upon you. And I think sometimes when we are on someone else's mind and we are dominating their thoughts, sometimes they can start to pop up in our minds because they are creating like this energetic cord between you two. So, I mean, not to like scare you or freak you out, but if that is the case, like if they're wishing ill upon you, or if they're having a lot of negative thoughts about you and directing all of this negative energy towards you, it might benefit you to do something to kind of break that energetic cord. So if you're into crystals, maybe just get some protective crystals, get a protective talisman. You know, if you have a symbol that you find lucky for yourself, like I think bumblebees are lucky for me. I love bees. I've always loved bees. So something like that, like a talisman, or like a worry stone, evil eye. Maybe wear a ring or a charm, put a keychain on your keys. Do something. I would do something. You know, some people do, they kind of use like aromatherapy or something like that as like home protection. You can look up different stuff. There's like a plethora of ideas about how to like cleanse your home. You can do that as well. I do feel like there's some negativity being directed towards you. With turmoil and crush, I feel like this is explaining kind of how this person thinks about you. You know, I think in a lot of ways, it's almost like I hate you, or like I don't like you because I want to be you. You know how some people have such a dislike for you, but ultimately it's because they're jealous or envious of you? I think that's the case for a lot of you. And this dynamic can exist with family too. You know, one of the things that was always kind of hard for me is like my mom had me when she was 19, and I often kind of felt like she sort of used me and her early pregnancy as a reason why she didn't get to do X, Y, and Z with her life. And I remember an argument that we were having, and she just kept kind of bringing it up over and over again. And I got to a point to where I was like, well, you know, I didn't ask to be born. Like, I didn't ask for that. That was a consequence of your choice. You had options. You didn't have to, like, keep me if you didn't want to be a mom. And it was hard because I had always had this sort of mentality that my mom was my best friend and it was like us against the world. And like, I felt like I was her partner for the earlier part of my childhood because I was her support system. I, felt like I emotionally did a lot for my mom as a child. And just to have kind of like the rug pulled out from under me and find out she had all of this resentment towards me that I wasn't aware of. Maybe if I was being honest with myself, I would have been aware of it, but we don't like to sometimes face uncomfortable truths. But it was easier for her to say I was the reason why she wasn't able to do what she wanted to do than to admit she had had all this free time to do something for herself and she chose to stay, in her comfort zone. And maybe that was a fear of failure, I don't know. But she had time. And so it felt like she held it against me that I had went to college and I had done, X, Y, and Z with my life. And she felt like I had opportunities that were denied to her. And so there was this resentment there. And it hurt because everything I did at that point in time in my life was to make her proud. And so then to find that instead of being proud of me, she was resentful, that was a bitter pill to swallow. And I think if this is a family situation, it runs pretty dark. For me to feel called to share that story with you all, this must be something deep. This is pretty deep. So, my heart goes out to you. It's very difficult. But also, and I hate to say this, but regardless of whether this is a family member, a friend, a romantic partner, someone from your past, this isn't your problem anymore. And it hasn't been your problem for a long time. This person has to work through their own insecurities, their own envy, their own jealousy. And again, if it's flipped, you got to work through it. I'm not saying whoever is representing the squirrel, I'm not saying they're a bad person. I'm not saying my mom's a bad person. Not at all. But that's something that you have to heal or they have to heal. Whoever the squirrel is, the bunny can't do it for them. That's their own insecurity. And you can't keep yourself small to make someone else feel good about themselves. You can't. I had a friend once. I had been single for a very long time. And I had finally decided that I was going to get on a dating app. And I was nervous about it because I'd never really had any experience with it. And I remember, to my shock and surprise, I ended up getting more matches and messages and, was talking to more people than what I had initially expected. And I shared this with my friend. And I remember feeling disappointed because instead of being happy for me or saying, oh, that's nice, they shared with me, well, initially they were kind of cold and weren't really responding very much. And then when I talked to them again later, they kind of admitted to me, yeah, I felt really jealous about that. Because they had been on dating apps for, I guess, a pretty long period of time without much success. And I was like kind of upset by it because I thought, well, you know how long I've been single for. Like, why can't you just take your feelings out of it and have happy, just be happy for me? Because I've been going through like a really rough time. But they felt how they felt, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes even when you want to be happy for somebody, because of whatever is going on in your life, you just can't. And at least, when confronted about it, there was honesty. So it may be that this person wants to be happy for you, but they just can't. For whatever reason, they just can't. And that's why I said I feel like this is their issue at this point. You got to keep moving forward. I wasn't going to stop like my search for love and companionship because it made my friend feel insecure. What good was it going to do for both of us to be alone? If this is someone that you had a crush on and you still think about them from time to time, there's just too much of a distance. You've just grown and elevated so much past that person. If they're still lingering in your mind, that's okay if you still have that crush, if you still have that fantasy of that person. But just know, in reality, you have evolved so much. Again, if you're the bunny, you've evolved so much past that person. They may be someone that you don't even see in your day-to-day life anymore. This is a crush from your past. But just know that, like, you have evolved past them. If you met them in real life again, you probably wouldn't even have that same romantic feeling towards them because you've just grown so much past it. And to wrap up your reading here, we have Nurturing Nina. And I feel like this card is coming out just as guidance for you moving forward. Focus on yourself. If this person is on your mind, I think it's because they're thinking about you a lot. And that is causing this energetic connection between you two. But just protect yourself, nurture yourself. They've got some stuff they need to work through and you can't help them with it. How they feel about you has everything to do with them and what they're going through and, their projections of envy and jealousy onto you. Again, if you're the bunny person, just focus on yourself. Do what you need to do to protect yourself. Energetically separate yourself from them. But you can't help them get to your level. You need to just focus on living well and being happy and moving forward. All right, that concludes your reading. I hope it resonated. I hope it brought you some comfort. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing. Hitting the notification bell lets you know whenever I upload. The easiest way to support the channel is to watch the ads. I know they can probably be a little bit annoying, but you can always mute them and just have them on in the background. So I really appreciate anyone who does that as well. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched the ads already, been a regular viewer, donated on Venmo, tipped with SuperThanks, or just commented or liked a video. It means the world to me and to Miss Gracie, of course. I'm wishing everyone the best as always. Please take care, and I hope to see you in my next reading. welcome to your reading. So a few disclaimers before we start. I do want to say a big thank you to the subscriber who suggested this topic. I also want to remind everyone that this is a general reading. So some of you may be asking about a crush, a friend, a family member, a romantic partner, an ex, someone from your past. So just be mindful. I'm going to try to address all possible scenarios that are coming forward from the cards, but I do think this is a reading where you have to be more mindful and discerning, and remember that this is a general reading and every single message is not going to resonate. Also, sometimes with the energies, they get muddled. So if I'm talking about your person, but it seems more like it's you, just flip everything that I'm saying, okay? All right. Let's go ahead and get into your cards here. We have the Page of Swords, we have the Magician, we have the Five of Swords, we have Justice, we have the 10 of Pentacles, and then we also have the 7 of Wands here. Okay. I do like this repeating imagery on this deck of the heart versus the feather. So the Egyptians believed that when we die, our heart gets measured. And the goal is for your heart to be as light as a feather when you die. Because the idea is that if you have a heavy heart, you're full of regret, remorse, guilt. And so you want a heart as light as a feather. And so I like this repeating imagery here, and that the swords are represented by feathers in this deck, because I think what it's saying here, for most of you, this person is someone where you had a big falling out with them. With the Five of Swords, there was a winner and there was a loser. You had a big falling out. And I kind of feel like someone won an argument by playing dirty. Someone kind of really hurt somebody. Someone did something to someone that really, really hurt. And it's like, you may have won, but at what cost? Someone said something that was really below the belt. Or someone gossiped about you, lied about you, said something really hurtful, and it cut you. It feels like someone went out of their way to really hurt you, when they could have maybe just have had a sit-down discussion, a conversation. They chose with the Page of Swords to go pretty low. They were childish about it. Like I said, you know how some people, when they have a problem with you, they go to social media, or they go to the internet, or they talk to everybody but the person that they're mad at. And they try to turn everybody against that other person. And you see that in families too. It's called triangulation, where instead of talking to the person that they're upset with, they try to pull in another family member. Parents do that sometimes when they're unhappy in their marriage. They'll pull a child into it. Instead of just talking directly to their spouse, they try to turn the children against the spouse. Or if a mother is mad at her daughter, she pulls in the son. Why? You see triangulation happen a lot in families. But it just feels like someone went really, really low. Someone went out of their way to cause a lot of hurt when they could have just had a direct conversation. Someone acted in a way that was outside of a certain moral standard. And I think the other person, tried to stay in their moral code. They tried to handle the situation with grace. And they didn't go as low as the other person. It reminds me, and I'm sorry again for the reality TV example, but just to give context, on a recent episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Erica is arguing with Denise. And I'm not saying, who is right or wrong in the argument here, but I do remember Erica in the past treating Denise really poorly. And they're having this argument, and Denise isn't doing a great job of expressing herself or identifying what it was that Erica did wrong. Erica, I think, has an understanding of what she did wrong to Denise, but she's not going to help her and tell her, and acknowledge that she knows. And Denise isn't someone, I think, who is good at arguing. And she goes really, really low and makes a comment about Denise's daughter. And I won't repeat it. It was a really nasty thing to say. And, Denise calls her out on it. And Erica says, you came in here accusing me of something that you can't even name, and you don't think I'm going to go as low as I possibly can? And Erica's comfortable with that. Erica's the exact opposite of Michelle Obama. You know how Michelle said, when they go low, we go high? Erica has the exact opposite mentality. When someone else goes low, she's going to go as low as you can go. And it's kind of reminding me of that, of someone knowing that they're going low and being comfortable with that. Being comfortable with it. Again, instead of just having a direct conversation. It really feels like to me like they try to turn other people against you. The magician is coming forward kind of in this like dishonest kind of energy of like, I'm going to try to trick the audience. I'm going to try to, because that's what they want. Like they want a public audience. Like it's not enough for them to hurt you. They want to hurt you in a way where it's public. They want to damage your reputation. It's not enough that they're angry at you. They want everybody to be angry at you. So they want the whole family to be angry at you. They want your entire friend group to be angry at you. If it's your romantic partner, that maybe they want to trash you on social media. I don't know, but it's like, I publicly want to shame you. And it's very much also that they're lying about you in some way, or they're misrepresenting the facts, and they know it. Because with the magician, like we're playing a trick on the audience. I'm pulling a rabbit out of the hat. I want you to believe that. But I'm not really doing that. Right? Like with the magician, there's trickery. It's a performance. It's very performative. And this person may be playing the victim when they're the aggressor. It's a performance. It's not real. It's not honest. And with this 10 of Pentacles here, this this house with these graham crackers, it's like a house of cards is what it's making me think of. Like they have built up this entire lie about you. They've built up this false narrative about who you are, lie by lie. And I think if someone discerning were to look at it and pull out some of their inconsistencies, the whole thing would crumble. But with the 7 of Wands, they've taken great effort to turn the tide of public opinion. Again, the public opinion may be within your family, within your friend group, you know what I'm saying? Or it may be on a larger scale. Maybe they took it to the internet, but it's like I want to turn people against you, group 3. I don't know why things have gotten so bad. I don't know why things have gotten so dark. But this is what it is. I don't think that this is like a crush situation. With group 1 and group 2, I could see how it may be like, oh, I have a crush on this person. And that's the person on your mind is a crush. With this group, it doesn't feel like that. If you're asking about a crush, maybe choose group 1 or group 2, or maybe this reading just isn't for you. But I don't think group 3 is talking about a crush. With the Justice card, with this 5 of Swords, the Magician, it feels too personal to be a crush, and it feels like there's too much combativeness here. Like it feels like an argument, you know? It feels like conflict. There's discord. There's communication breakdown. There's no contact. You know, it feels very much like there is a lot of anger here and this intent to harm somebody. Okay, and now we have regret. They're watching. And then we also have the Fool and the Hermit card. So the Fool and the Hermit, with the Cat Meme Tarot deck, it's only the major arcana in that deck. And I asked specifically with these cards, how would you describe the person on group 3's mind? And it came through with the Fool and the Hermit. You were the only group, I think, to get 2 cards. But I think with the Hermit and the Fool, especially now seeing regret and their watching coming out as well, the idea is that this person, even though they hurt you so badly and they wanted to shame you and turn everybody against you, now they regret it. Now they are the hermit. Now they're lonely. Now they miss you. And you see the cat is looking at their phone, and to see they're watching next to it, like they are trying to follow you on social media. They're trying to keep tabs on you from a distance. Maybe they're texting mutual people that you know, trying to find out what's going on with you. Or maybe they're stalking. Maybe if you don't have social media, they're stalking social media of people that you know to try to get some clues about what's going on in your life. They're keeping tabs on you from a distance. Through some form or another, they're trying to watch you from afar. They're trying to see how you're doing. Because I think when this person did what they did, maybe you cut them off. Or maybe they cut you off, you know? But I do think for a lot of you, you haven't spoken to this person. Or if you have, you haven't shared anything about your life with them. Because if they did all this, I mean, I wouldn't trust them. If I were you, group 3, I wouldn't be going around telling them the intimate details of my life. They don't deserve to know what's going on in your life. I think also with the Fool card here, they feel like, yeah, I acted impulsively. I acted recklessly. I shouldn't have done that. You know, I think that they kind of have this awareness that they let their anger towards you get the best of them. They were dominated by their temporary emotions. I think they made some permanent... They hurt you in a way that can't be undone. They did permanent damage to you based upon temporary feelings. That's the message. Sorry, it took me a minute to verbalize, but that's the case. And the garbage man is outside. What they did to you was trash. Let's take that message. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people say things that once you say it, it makes people love you less. Like once you say certain things, once you go so low, you do certain things, you can apologize until the cows come home. Where does that expression come from? I don't know. You can apologize until you're blue in the face and it won't make a difference. You can beg for forgiveness. And even if someone does forgive you, they'll probably never forget what you said. Certain things that you say and do can change the dynamic of a connection forever. And I think, you know, people, that's why you have to be mindful about what you say and what you do. That's why you have to be mindful about going low, because once you go low, certain things just forever change the dynamic. Even if someone wants to forgive you, some things are hard to forget. Some lines, once they're crossed, cannot be uncrossed. They should have just had a direct conversation with you. They shouldn't have brought other people into it. They shouldn't have gone so low. And I think that they're on your mind just because they hurt you so bad. I mean, what they did to you, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to heal from it. I mean, how could you forget so easily? How could you forgive so easily? I mean, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to heal. And it's a shame because they hurt both of you. You know, in trying to hurt you, they hurt themselves. Because even if they still feel like they don't want you in their lives, even if they still have all of this ill will towards you, I think that when you go so low, character-wise, how do you reconcile that? Like, how do you look at yourself in the mirror and not feel bad? How do you still look at yourself like you're a good person? Because even if they were in the right, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe in some way they were right in the argument or the disagreement that they had with you. The way that they handled it was so bad. It was so dark. It was so mean-spirited. Like the punishment didn't match the crime. They didn't have to go that low. They didn't have to shame you so badly. It's like, whatever it is they think that you did the punishment really fit the crime? And they have to live with themselves. Like, they have to look in the mirror and live with themselves. I don't think they like themselves very much right now. I think if they're being honest with themselves, and maybe they're not, but if they are truly being honest with themselves and not continuing to victimize themselves and martyr themselves, if they're being truly honest, they will say, I went too far. I took it too far. I could have handled that differently. I could have handled that with more maturity. Group 3 didn't deserve that. Maybe Group 3 did deserve, my anger, but they didn't deserve that level of hate. They didn't deserve, that level of, I may be pronouncing this wrong, but the word that's coming forward is vitriol. They didn't deserve that level of vitriol. Yeah, I think that they have regret with the number 5 being in the corner of the regret card. They wish they could change it, but they can't. You can't go back. They crossed a line that can't go back. And even with regret and their watching coming out together here, I think part of what they regret is that they made it so public. Like, they involved these other people. Again, whether it was other family members, other friends, social media, the internet, like, they involved other people when they didn't have to. It should have been a conversation between you and them. And I don't get that. Like, why make it so messy? Why, like, okay, if you're upset with, like, let's say this is your friend or your romantic partner, your family member, you're upset with them. Okay, maybe you confide in like 1 or 2 people that you trust because you need to get feedback or you need emotional support, whatever. You need someone else's objective opinion, whatever. You don't go and proceed to tell the world. You don't go and like systematically badmouth your friend, romantic partner, your family member to anyone and everybody who will listen. You don't do that. You don't try to shame someone on a public platform or shame someone to a large group of people or to everybody that you all have a mutual acquaintance with. You don't gossip. And sometimes it's like, instead of just talking about the disagreement, itself, the conflict itself. Maybe they also, because I do think this is someone who's close to you and knows you pretty intimately, maybe they also felt the need to talk about things that were going on in your life, things that you shared with them, personal details about your life. Maybe they felt the need to bring that into it too, as a way to further like assassinate your character. It feels like character assassination. It wasn't necessary. Like, they wanted to shame you. They wanted to hurt you, to kind of fulfill this narrative of them being the victim and paint you as this bad person. It wasn't necessary. And they regret that need to have an audience, because that's what it was. It felt like they wanted an audience. They wanted everyone to say, oh, poor you. How is group 3 so mean to you? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry group 3 is such an awful, selfish, terrible, horrible human being. I'm so sorry. You know, everybody loves to call everybody a narcissist these days. But it's like, okay, whoever this person is on your mind, they're the one who needed an audience. That sounds more narcissistic to me. I don't know why that word is coming up, but I feel like that's a common insult that's hurled these days. But yeah, I feel like at this point, yeah, like they regret what they did to you, but they broke trust with you in a way, like I think it would take a lot for you to let this person back into your life. And even if you did, it just would never be the same. It's a real shame, because I don't know what this person meant to you. But it's a real shame, because I do think they hurt both of you in this process. You know, they took the relationship and threw it in the trash. It's really sad. With Dreaming Diana and Focus Vanilla here, I do think that they're still very much focused on you, and you are still very much focused on them for totally different reasons. I think you're trying to deal with the hurt. I think you're hurt. You know, you may be feeling a whole thunderstorm of emotion, and maybe this happened a long time ago and you're still hurt. And I get it. Like, honestly, with what they did, I get it. I get it, because it feels like they went so low. I can't tell you how to heal or move on, because I think it's going to be really personal to you and what they did and what the dynamic was, and, you know, what role they were fulfilling in your life. I think it's just going to be a time thing. I think that the more time that passes, the more you'll be able to heal and move on. But it does feel like a matter of timing, a matter of you like going through every stage of grieving, because it feels like a death. It feels like we won't come back from this. And with Dreaming Diana, like, you may still be having dreams or nightmares or anxieties about this person, because if they tried to shame you in this way, it may have made you feel unsafe. It may have damaged other connections in your life. It may have kind of altered the future way, or I'm sorry, the way you approach relationships in the future. Maybe it damaged your idea of family. Maybe it damaged your idea of what it means to be a friend. Maybe it damaged your way of romantic partnerships, because I think it affected your ability to trust. I think moving forward, it's going to be hard for you to trust. You're going to feel more suspicious. And I think that's understandable given what they did to you. From their end, I think you are just taking up a lot of their mental space because of that regret. And I think they may have moments where they still are in that victim mentality and they're still angry at you, and that's their guilt talking. They feel bad for what they did to you, so they have to continue to perpetuate this lie about you and victimize themselves. And then there's another part of them, because it feels very conflicted, another part of them that knows deep down they went too far. And they may wish, you know, if I had done it differently, could they still have you in their life? And maybe they still dream that can be possible. It's just a sad situation. And I'm sorry. Like, my heart goes out to you. I'm sorry that all of this transpired, you know, and I wish you healing and I wish you well. And if this situation is flipped, and you're the one, you know, who went low, and you're the one who involved a whole audience of people, you can't undo it, but you can do better in the future. And you may never get this person back in your life, or if you do, it just won't be the same. But you can learn from this, and you can do better in the future. All right, that concludes your reading. I hope it resonated. I hope it brought you some comfort. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing. Hitting the notification bell lets you know whenever I upload. The easiest way to support the channel is to watch the ads. I know they can probably be a little bit annoying, but you can always mute them and just have them on in the background. So I really appreciate anyone who does that as well. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched the ads already, been a regular viewer, donated on Venmo, tipped with SuperThanks, or just commented or liked a video. It means the world to me and to Miss Gracie, of course. I'm wishing everyone the best as always. Please take care, and I hope to see you in my next reading.